Hi guys, so today we're going to talk about the brackets for the REV Major Manila. That will be happening just this Saturday, so this is more of a last minute thing. In this video, what we'll talk about is who are the players that are likely to make it out of their pool and make it to the top 8. This is a really big tournament, so it's like a good measurement of who the best players are in the metro right now. There are, I think, 120 of them joining, so that's a lot of names to sort these out. And so to help me out, I asked my good friend L, or you might popularly know him as Vermilion, from Team VB to help me sort this out and give me opinions on the players and how likely they'll be able to make the top 8 and overall who might be the winner of the whole thing. Hi L, thanks for helping me out here.
Hey, what's up, Miko? This is a pretty interesting little bit of content you got going here. Thanks for having me on. Excited to get started. Let's see what's going on here.
Oh yeah, how about the short intro of yourself first for those who aren't familiar with the local Tekken scene?
For sure. My name is L. I go by Vermilion. Devil Jin main. I used to play professionally, but now kind of laying low. Currently in Team VB as the acting leader. Plan to be active here and there in tournaments and team battles and whatnot. Yeah. That's me for now.
So before we start, here's a surprise question that we haven't talked about during
Oh
our
no.
briefing. How's the
cool.
patch going for you?
From my perspective or generally?
Well, from your perspective, as a player who plays high level Tekken, who knows the intricacies of your main at heart, how does this patch affecting you?
Well, the obvious answer is that it's making things a lot harder as a Devil Jin player. One of his key tools got nerfed pretty bad with the removal of the knockdown for up forward for the Wraith kick.
Yep.
So nothing's free after that hits, and yeah, it pushes pretty far too. So you don't really get anything going, even if it hits either, regardless if it's a wall crush or whatever they call the new mechanic now. Mid screen, it doesn't give too much value aside from kind of resetting the situation to neutral. The wall, I feel like it is okay thanks to the fairly speedy startup of the move, along with the ease of the input. But when you have moves like forward, forward 2, back forward 2, 3, his homing, wall bounce, even the slash kick, running 3, it's hard to find a situation where I feel I want to prioritize using that move. Yeah, it's a weird patch for Devil Jin. In general, it's definitely gotten a lot harder, but I kind of like it. I kind of enjoy the pain. So yeah, it's interesting for me. I'm looking forward to see how I can make it work. Just wish they'd make him funner to play. I don't really care how much they nerf the guy. I just wish they'd make him funner to play. So there's more ways to express yourself and your playstyle. Generally though, for everyone else, kind of mixed bag of nuts. It's weird because some of the characters only have access to their wall crush moves on hit or on block. So I'm not sure how thoroughly the balancing team thought this through. But yeah, it's an odd mechanic to me. It feels somewhat rushed, but I'm not entirely against it. I mean, it's a new mechanic. I'm pretty sure there's some new opportunities to explore here and there with it. I'm mainly surprised about who they touched in terms of nerfs and buffs and who they didn't touch. So yeah, I'd be really interested to see what's going on in the balancing team's head. Interesting direction. A lot of the nerfs though are merited. I'm just surprised that they didn't nerf Akuma. So that's interesting to me.
I heard he and Fang got just a
Fang,
slap at
yeah.
the wrists. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's already going to be an influx of Feng Weis after Evo, thanks to Ni. But the new patch, the changes that were made to Feng, the nerfs don't hurt him, and the things that were given to him, like, kind of just make him more obnoxious to deal with. So yeah, I expect to see a lot more Feng moving forward.
Wow, that's actually a really how do you call this, optimistic take. I mean, when you go to Twitter, right, for most of those who are hit with the patch, it's all doom and gloom with their
There's a
mains.
lot of pros that are expressing negative sentiments over how the patch has been going, which is kind of understandable. But yeah, I see more negativity than optimism. The only optimism I see is when people are like thrilled about their mains getting buffed. But generally, overall, about the main state of the game, I haven't really seen too many positive remarks, which is somewhat understandable to an extent.
So all that's left is just the testing, right? See how the patch stacks up, for example,
Yeah.
for competitive play.
Pretty much.
Okay, so I guess that's a good segue to go back to the main point of the video we're doing. So yeah, competitive play. Again, Road to REV Major Manila is quite the biggest tournament, so it has a good sample size. And what we're gonna do is just look at the pools, see who are notable players, and then, each have our own picks about how likely they are to get out of their pool. So let's head to Pool 1A first.
How many pools are there?
There are 4 pools in total. So there's
Oh,
A1, A2, B1, B2, and then there's, let's say, 120. So that's 30 players per pool.
wheels.
Yeah, it's all full. And, part of me thinks that it's like the maximum capacity they're allowed for the tournament. If there were no limitations, for example, I guess this could easily go way past that number.
Yeah, I've seen a tournament go like up to 200 players over here. The largest I've seen, 200 plus, somewhere, yeah, around there. So, pretty good numbers, actually.
So let's go to Pool A1. Here are the names that I've picked out from the list. So let me know if I missed something out. From A1, some of the popular names here would be Coffee Prince. We know about him. He is former nationals player, has played also internationally. Just a really good player overall. Another one I've picked here is from your team, VB. There's Juker. He is really good. And I think he's one of the front runners in your team for competitive play. Is that right?
He's been pretty active lately, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he does in this tournament.
There's Crits. I've remembered his name from past tournaments where he did well. There's also Lucky Fighter, the Tekken streamer. Right? He's a good lily. And then there's Tomahawk. I haven't seen him play lately, but he has some big wins during the past. I remember that one tournament in, I think it's a PPGL qualifier in Trinoma, where he won the whole thing. So it was a pretty stacked tournament. And then there's Legion Mad Access, which I keep seeing in local tournaments. These are the notable names that I picked. How about on your side, El? Are there any other names that stood out for you?
Yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. Like, we might have tapped briefly earlier. I'm not very familiar with too many of the people in this list, since they do seem like new names, or, there are some people that just kind of like to switch up their gamer tags here and there. But yeah, Coffee Prince is one. Crits, I think I mostly generally agree with your list for this one. Lucky Fighter, possibly Crayons, Tomahawk, yeah, Legion, and yeah, for sure, Juker too. I really can't say for much about the rest of the people in this bracket, since I don't really know them, to be completely honest. So I'll
It's okay.
focus on those
It's a big
guys.
community, and I guess that's the beauty of these tournaments, right? You'll never know which name is gonna pop off and then suddenly cause upsets in the brackets. So
That has happened, actually. Happened several times.
out of these names that we've picked, in your opinion, who are the two likely to make it out of their pool?
This one's tough. Statistically, I would probably go with Coffee Prince as one of the people that should be making it out. He has a very consistent track record, but he does have some previous tournaments where he has really good runs. He's even beaten like some notable international players in some international tournaments. So I think he's a really strong contender to make it out of this pool. But there are also times where I'm not sure if he's having a bad day or something, but he also is prone to getting cheesed, and there are times he loses to players that are surprising to me that he would lose against. Hopefully he has a good run today or in that tournament and nothing wild happens. But yeah, for the most part, I think he would be making it out of this pool for sure. For the second guy that would make it out, that one's actually really hard for me to figure out. But I'd probably have to. Does it have to be just one guy? This is kind of difficult.
Okay. Just for you, since you're helping me out, the two likely people to fight it out for the last slot in the pool.
I think Crits is kind of sticking out to me right now.
Crits?
Mainly
Okay.
because he seems to be on somewhat of an upward trend in terms of his growth in Tekken. He spars with like really strong players regularly. One of his usual sparring partners ends up being like Jules
Oh,
and the
wow.
elite guys, I believe. So he has access to a lot of good competition. He's also a Josie main who has seen significant buffs. So yeah, I think that should help him in terms of overall performance and like power potential. Because pre-patch, Josie, to be completely honest, is already kind of difficult to deal with if the player knows what he's doing. But now with the additional buffs to her, she gets a new somewhat safe confirmable combo starter. Yeah, that should help her quality of life by a lot. So the Josie buffs, along with Kritz's personal improvement and training, I think he should be a strong contender for the second slot. Toss up though, I guess, would be Juker and Legion. Juker, because yeah, he's been training very, very hard. I see the guy working. Legion, he's pretty strong in tournaments, and he's on Julia. Having a lot of balls in a tournament, he seems to be that kind of guy to me, based on the matches that I've seen.
Okay, so he's
Having
willing to take
having
risks.
Yeah, he's willing to take risks. Being ballsy like that and
Mm.
being on a strong character like Julia, I think that's a really solid combo.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he makes it far as well.
I think I'm with you with with Coffee Prince. I still remember his game back in Evo Japan 2019 against Kokoma. That's a really
That's
convincing
the one I was
win.
talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's this, of course, his nationals run in one of the nationals top eights, right, where he really
Yeah,
went
yeah, yeah.
super far and
Yeah.
caused a lot of upsets on the bracket. For my second pick, though, I picked Tomahawk just because of the familiarity over the
Oh,
other
Tomahawk, I forgot to
players.
talk about him. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
that's my bad. I haven't really seen too much of Tomahawk as of late, but if he has been as active as he was before,
Hmm.
I think he would be a really strong contender to make it through as well. I'd probably put him up there with Coffee Prince.
Wow.
But that said, I can't really tell as of
Hmm.
now since I don't know how active he's been. He might have like been taking a little break.
Hmm.
There's a lot of catching up to do, and a lot of people have been grinding it out and putting in the work. And there's a lot of new stuff to learn too, just game wise.
Hmm.
If he's able to like catch up to everything that's going on, yeah, just update himself and just get to the level he was at before. Yeah, I think he would be a really strong contender.
Okay, so let's go to Pool A2. So Pool A2, here are the list of players. Oh, there's another VB contender there. It's Chepler.
Yep, new recruit.
Nice. So what I have here is I have Gold Standard, I have Jason, I have Andrax, who's one of the top four, I think, from the Academy, Nationals Academy tournament,
Hmm.
the kind of qualifier. There's Pau Isla, of course, the one of the Tekken streamers, of course, Chepler, and then there's Sneakerine from the FEU Tekken community.
So yeah, gold standard. If he loses to anyone, that would be an upset, pretty much. Then I feel it's a toss-up between Jason and Chepler. Special mentions though would be Nicorin, Endrax, Islao. Those are the ones I'm familiar with. The other ones I'm not very familiar with. Able to say enough.
Let's talk about Gold Standard. From my perspective, as more of the casual viewer, he's a bit of a mystery because on one hand, I keep hearing names about him, like how his skill level like way up there. But during his showing at the nationals, I mean, he was one of the first who got eliminated. So somehow, I know he's really good, but is he really at that level of playing?
I would like to believe so. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a bunch of external factors, but I guess if we're looking at his personal skill level,
Mhm.
he's also been seeing an upward trend. If you try to see his history after the Nationals,
Mhm.
yeah, he's been having a really good, consistent run with most of his placings I've seen, based on what I've seen
Mhm.
in most tournaments so far. ICFC, locals. So yeah, he's another one of those really methodical players that are really smart about the game and really take a more analytical approach. And I
Mm.
think that translates really well for him in tournaments. And he's also, regular sparring buddies with people like Jules,
Mhm.
Pika, yeah, Crits too. He's part of that gang. And yeah, external. Those are the external factors, along with the recent Leo buffs too. Leo got a buff to her DF2, launches people on crouch status now. It did not before. So anytime you see a whiff, you just let it rip and not care what kind of state they're in. You're sure it'll launch this time, unlike
Mhm.
before where you have to kind of confirm if they're in crouch status or not. Some of her pokes were increased in speed by like a frame or two, so it's going to be a lot harder to block those. You have to be ready and awake to block a lot of Leo's stuff now, where you could be a little more lax before. That, along with his own personal training and improvements, and generally the gang he hangs out with, the
Mhm.
average skill level of those players. Yeah, I'd be really surprised if he doesn't make it. Who was my second pick? Was it like a toss up or something between Jason and Chepler? I think, because I only remember these players in their best forms, and my memory of Jason was him being really good in tournament. Depending on who he's planning to use this time, I mean, it could be King, could be Armor King, or Kuma. Probably not Kunimitsu since she kind of got gutted this patch. And Chepler, I also have been seeing a lot of improvement in his play. I believe he has some history of beating some really strong players in recent tournaments. So I think he's also one of those up and coming players that are on an upward trend. And you know how these new players just absorb information like a sponge and just like get power spikes at really, really like weird and like fast speeds. The main difference here, like in this bracket, Jason and Gold Standard, is that Jason likes to party. Gold Standard
I
likes to
thought
play more reliably.
I guess you can call it the safe
Yeah,
safe
I guess you
approach.
could call it that. Yeah, takes a safer approach.
Mhm.
Both of which can work really well in tournaments, depending who you're against.
Okay, so we're now in B1.
Yeah, the obvious contender for this bracket would be AKs. The only other ones I do see that are notable to the candidates to make it out would be Arte,
Mm.
Keenan, and So Airy. This could really go like either way. That's a triad of death right there. It's hard to predict who's gonna win out of those three guys. Personally, depends on who has a better day and who has bigger balls that day. I feel.
Do you think it's possible for an AK upset, or it's
In this
very unlikely?
bracket, highly unlikely. Mhm.
So I'd actually like to talk about it since you've played against AK a lot of times, especially in the nationals. What makes him really good from your perspective?
Off my main point earlier, he probably has the biggest balls in tournaments. Kid doesn't get scared. He doesn't really choke, or like the times that he does look choky are very, very rare. So he has a very, very confident play style.
Mm.
He doesn't second guess what he's doing, and he has like good instinctive play. You know how you can just like make decisions
Mm.
with your gut or based on feel. He's really good with that. It's one of those natural intuitions that some gamers can be really talented with.
Mm.
So yeah, and he's just increased his character pool ever since too. It's not even the Shiheen you have to really worry about anymore. He has like a whole bunch of other characters now as well. There's like Akuma, Geese, yeah, Zafina. He even has a Julia. Yeah, he has a lot of characters now. So it's hard to prepare for him too character wise, aside
Mm.
from just him like being AK as is. If there's a Wong factor for like Justin Wong, there's definitely
Mm.
some sort of AK factor going on as well. He gets like tournament buffs, so yeah.
For the other three that you've mentioned, what separates these three from the rest of the pack? For Soeri, for Arte, and for Keenan.
It's gonna basically boil down to what I believe are fundamentals, and again, whoever has the bigger balls
Mm.
on that day. Arte is another Julia player that I have yet to play,
Mm.
but I've seen how he's been doing in recent tournaments.
Mm.
So looks like he's doing pretty well for himself there. Another one of those very ballsy Julia players.
Okay.
So that could be really dangerous in tournaments, especially when you don't have much time to really download. Whoever makes the right guesses and is more courageous that day usually ends up winning. Keenan, he's been improving a lot. I feel like he's really strong, but I feel like he has to also believe in himself a little more. Because if I think if he's having a good day mentally, I
Mm.
think he could just take this the entire bracket too. And I say this because I play with him a lot, or
Mm.
I've played with him a lot to know his general level of skill.
Mm.
So yeah, he's actually really good for how much he gives himself credit for.
Okay.
So I think yeah, it really just depends on his mental state that day. He's got to feel himself.
Okay.
So Eri, yeah, he's a Mishima main, so like naturally good fundamentals are the bare minimum. He's on Heihachi.
Oh
Heihachi
wow.
didn't really get changed. He just had like a little tweak to one of his moves that does a little charge, puts you in a little block stun, and
Mm.
that's his wall crushing move now. So literally no changes to Heihachi. Heihachi is very, very strong, extremely underrated, I feel. Yeah, as long as So Eri is also playing mentally sane that day and doesn't do anything crazy, then yeah, I think he should be another strong contender. If both of these guys can like run into Arte and survive whatever Arte tosses at him, then it's gonna be just between Keenan and Soeri. I feel if they can't survive, then yeah, it's gonna be Arte. It's a matter of who's better at surviving the barrage of Julia stuff and aggression and wildness that can ensue in crazy matchups.
Okay. I guess that wraps up our. Let's go to the B2.
Yeah, and while we're transitioning over to B2, I know we're halfway through this discussion, but I just need to like reiterate the disclaimer that I'm not very familiar with the rest
Mm.
of these names, so forgive me, viewers, if I am not able to really shed too much light on everyone else.
That's true. And actually, I'll take that as my cue to apologize as well. That you may have passed over your name, but that doesn't mean we discount your
Yeah,
skill
yeah.
level or your
We actually talked
capacity in
about that
tournaments.
right at the
Mm.
beginning, that there's a lot of silent killers out there.
Yes, and actually, it makes for a really good story later on, right? That people
Yeah.
will talk about you because of your breakout performance in these tournaments. And to be honest, this is one of the things that makes watching fighting game tournaments is that you'll never know who will pop off. And speaking of names that popped off quite recently, because they caused a lot of upsets on the bracket. In B2, we see we see RGN. You I've only known about him because of the recent IE what they call this, the recent qualifier that Dojin won, wherein he had a great bracket run and caused upsets, beating a lot of notable names along the way. So there's RGN, and then here's another name that you're probably very familiar with, L. So there's Haps. Hapon
Oh
is in
no,
here.
who's that guy? Who dat?
He's and actually in his first match he's paired up against Motor Mike, who I see is I think he's a Lucky Chloe content creator. I see his name in the local Tekken groups, showing Lucky
Mhm.
Chloe videos. And then there's a Cyclone Rune, and there's Charles. That ends my list for familiar names. How about on your end, L?
Haps would be my top pick for this bracket.
Mm.
Very, very consistent in tournaments, very strong fundamentals, very good tournament history. I don't really see him losing to anyone here unless, like, yeah, he's having a bad day. Or unless, like, one of these other guys that I'm going to be mentioning is having a really, really good day. Yeah, there's RGN.
Mm.
This is another one of those up and comers. He does have very strong tournament history as of recent as well. Yeah, he also has history of beating some pro players in tournaments. Based on the things that I've been seeing about him, looks like this guy is getting stronger.
Mm.
He's another one of those guys that has a very confident play style too. Consider him one of the other players very likely to get out of this bracket. He also has that game sense where he can choose to play by the book or turn on the wild switch. I think that's kind of important in tournaments.
Especially
So
with his main, right? I think it's using Sofina. So all
um
of the
I
or does it have
heard
other
that
characters?
yeah, I heard that the last tournament he won, he was on Shaheen.
Oh
I could
wow.
be wrong. But yeah, he popped off with Akuma in previous tournaments. So I'm not sure if he's expanded his pool even more since
Mm.
then, but those are the characters that he's most notable for, I feel. Akuma Shaheen. So yeah, um, Akuma also not relatively untouched this patch. The one
Mm.
thing they did touch doesn't matter. So yeah, Akuma is always a strong pick. Shaheen, yeah, he's another one of those characters that's not bad, but doesn't really shine in too many other aspects either.
Mm.
But he's more strong than weak, I would say. If we're taking the whole like patch into consideration too, nothing too bad happened to Shaheen either. I think he's a strong contender for getting the second slot. Other notables would be HG. Yeah, there's
Uh.
Charles.
Mm.
Yeah, he's on my list too. Charles is also very strong. If we're talking statistics, I feel like Haps would come out on top, just in terms of Haps's consistency in tournaments. Though, yeah, it does depend on who's having a better day that day. It is a tournament; like anything can happen. Like even the best players like have bad days, and you've seen them lose to unpredictable or like not even like, I don't want to use the word random, but like you see them lose to surprising opponents. So yeah, they better make sure they're in good condition that day. But yeah, I'm trying to review the rest of the people on this list. Sadly, I'm not very familiar with the rest. Or I have seen some names here that I am familiar with, but I have not played or seen them play enough to give any like reasonable input. And
uh.
this is the last pool, is it?
Yeah. This is already the last pool. So
Yeah, I'm surprised to see that the Lozano brothers are not here.
Don Argos isn't here.
Yeah, I'm
He's a regular
wondering.
tournament goer, right?
Yeah, he should be. Maybe he's taking a break or
Mm.
working or something. But yeah, uh,
Haji also isn't here.
yeah, we have not
Mm.
seen Haji either. That's interesting. Unless he's rolling with a different name. I feel like some of these people I actually know. They're just rolling with different gamer tags. So
Yeah, I mean, there's like a 2 year break from, for example, from professional play. So that's
yeah,
probably a good time
people.
to change names.
Yeah,
Create
they go
different
training in
identities.
secret.
Mm.
Have a lot of like realizations in their life and decide that they want to change their IGN. So yeah.
Yeah. So, who are your picks again for B2?
Hops and yeah, I'd probably go with RGN since that dude seems like he's gained some momentum.
Same here. And one of the interesting things about these two is that they faced in the previous tournament, and out of the big names that RGN was able to defeat during that day, it's only Haps that got him his losses. Like all of his
Mm-hmm.
losses for the tournament, it's only from
Mm-hmm.
one person and that's Haps. And Haps went
Interesting.
on to get second place in that tournament, only losing to Dojin. So very interesting history
Mm.
between these two players.
Yeah,
Okay.
they kind of play
Mm.
like their play styles are contrast each other too. So Haps likes to play very methodical and patient, and
Mm.
RGN does have that option to like just you know turn up the switch and like party. So I'd personally like to see that matchup.
I guess we can discuss the big question. Who do you think would probably win, given your list of people who would make it out of their pools?
Aside from AK,
Yeah, aside from AK.
yeah, Haps, pretty much.
Mm.
Unless he runs into Coffee Prince, because those two, they're pretty familiar with each other, so it
Mm.
could go either way. But yeah, for the most part, high likelihood that it will be AK or Haps.
AK or Haps. Okay. For my on my end, I'm gonna bet that Jeff is gonna have a really good day, and he'll probably be able to take everything. I'm just unfamiliar with how his matchup stacks against AK. Does he have a good matchup against AK?
They're really familiar with each other's playstyles. I
Mm.
believe that they probably spar with each other too.
Mm.
So it might boil down to more of a familiarity like factor rather than a skill factor in that on that day. But statistically speaking, I'd probably say that AK has won more than Coffee Prince in their matchup. Well, then again, AK
Mhm.
has won more against everyone in here. So
He's not considered the best for no reason, right? Oh, yeah, I guess that takes care of all of the pools. And yeah, thank you for helping me out sort this all out. It's
for
I mean it's a
sure.
really interesting tournament in the sense that we see both familiar names, and of course there's always this possibility that one of these names that we didn't discuss will be able to cause upsets. And I guess it's just fun looking at these storylines, right? Like how these people stack up against each other. Because I mean, in the next month, and I'm sure you're very excited for this, but it's already Rev Major, and It's always interesting to see how the local Tekken scene stacks up against the international one, right?
For sure. I think our scene is actually really strong. We
Mm.
just don't get to really get exposed as much internationally. But yeah, I feel like the top players, or even like not even the top players here, but like a lot
Mm.
of the players here, like can really go to toe to toe with a lot of international players. So Rev will be interesting. Yeah.
So, any parting words, any shout outs or message to anyone who's viewing this?
I don't know. Final disclaimer that any of the opinions here are based on actual tournament experience. So
Mm.
there are actual days that I feel could go good or bad for any given player, and I
Mm.
feel that's something that's not really talked about a lot. They just talk about, oh, who's the better player or
Mm.
who's using which character, but a lot of what goes on behind the scenes in tournaments, I feel like that's not talked about enough. So there could be anyone on this bracket or on this at this tournament that might be having a great day or a really bad day. There could be a really strong player having a really bad day, or a
Mm.
really unsuspecting up and coming player having a really good day. And it's all about how like all these factors interact along with like their actual level of skill, the characters they use, so many factors that I really hope the community is able to, pick apart more than just seeing the matchup at surface value. Yeah, thanks for having me, Miko. Thanks
Mm.
for trusting my input to a certain extent. This was kind of fun. Shout outs to the VB boys. We're gonna try to get stuff going here in the scene too. We're constantly grinding, getting stronger. I see everyone working, so we're looking forward to competing and making good stuff happen in the scene too.
All right. Thank you, El. And of course, good luck to all of the players playing this weekend. Yeah, looking forward to the results of this tournament and, of course, the big one on September, the Rev Major. Again, thank you, El, and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace, guys.